Welcome back to the last part of the series where I'm looking at the sketches in this little book. And if you've not seen the previous videos, don't worry. I mean, you can go back and watch them if you like, but I won't be offended if you don't. So basically, just in case you haven't seen the previous videos, this is a book that I bought a few years ago, before I ever started sharing my artwork or anything online. And it's laid out to be done as a sketch a day for a whole year. I only actually managed to do it for 6 months, but I still think that that is a big achievement. And to be honest, it's not something that I've done again since. So I am quite proud of it, and I'm happy to be sharing it with you now. So let me show you what I did in the last of my 6 months of daily sketching. So this is where we got up to at the end of the last video, and then we start off October 2019 with a slightly unpleasant sketch. I went for a B12 injection. I can't remember offhand if that was the first one that I ever had, I don't know, but it's definitely the first one I sketched anyway. And then if you remember back here, I was looking after my friend's cat while she was away. And she's actually got a really big collection of DVDs, even bigger than me. I thought I had a lot. Anyway, while I was looking after the cat, she said I was free to borrow any of the DVDs if I wanted to. So this day I borrowed Mary Poppins Returns and I watched that. So that's the explanation of this one. And then this is just my little cat Coke sat watching my fish tank that I had at the time, labelled as Coke's TV. And I used to say to him, you know, the classic thing of don't sit too close, you'll get square eyes. Did your parents ever say that to you? Okay, and then this was another DVD that I'd borrowed from my friend, a film called Big Eyes, which is the story of Margaret Keane and her artwork and her story basically of how she became famous. I'm not sure if it was in the 60s or 70s, I can't quite recall. And then this is my slippers, but this is one of Coke's toys. So this was a little ball that I'd crocheted for him, and where he'd been playing with it and kind of kicking it around, it had ended up landing on top of my slipper, and it just reminded me of those old-fashioned slippers that had like a little pom-pom on the front. And as I'd mentioned in previous videos, I'd been learning Nepali on and off for a number of years, and this little phrase means we do not give up, which is kind of ironic really, considering I'm getting close to the point where I'm going to give up on my daily sketches. This day I had a can of Jack Daniels, and it was specifically Jack Daniels honey with lemonade, and as I recall it was quite nice, but I don't think I've had it again since, so obviously didn't make a huge impression. And here the bourbon biscuit and custard cream, which I bought for my dad, but they're not normal ones, they were kind of oversized biscuits, so you kind of buy it and it's just like one giant biscuit in the pack, so I bought one of each for my dad, because as I recall growing up, they were the two biscuits that he had most often. Not necessarily his favourites, but you know, they were always around. And this one, this is my friend whose cat I was looking after actually, so she's obviously back from holiday now, and I went with her to get a new mobile phone. And as you can see, we went to the Carphone warehouse, and this chap that served her, he was really helpful, lovely guy, but the biggest hair I think anybody has ever seen since the 70s. And this is me and my friend sat waiting. And this cat peeping in the cat flap, this is Brian. He used to be one of my neighbour's cats, and my cat flap has got like a microchip scanner, so that in theory only my cat can come in. But what would sometimes happen is the neighbour's cat would chase Coke and he would be so close behind Coke that he would kind of get in before the cat flap had chance to kind of close and lock. And on more than one occasion I got woken up in the middle of the night by a kind of angry cat kind of growly noise in the bedroom. And yeah, Brian had come in and was in my bedroom in the middle of the night. So yeah, that happened a couple of times. I caught him eating Coke's food a couple of times. But yeah, this was obviously an occasion when he wasn't following Coke. And he was obviously trying to get in, but he couldn't get in because of the microchip scanner. And I just got a note there saying, "Is Coke coming out to play?" The following day, Coke is definitely not going out to play. He's all cozied up in a blanket on the sofa. And then this day, I actually made some soda bread. And it's very rare for me to do anything even remotely creative in the kitchen. I am not a good cook. I don't particularly enjoy cooking. But this particular day I'd made some soda bread and I was actually really pleased with how it turned out, and it was worthy of a sketch. I don't quite remember exactly what was going on here, but I did some temporary furniture rearranging. So I think I had maybe extra stuff being stored in the living room that wasn't normally there. So I kind of had to juggle my furniture around a little bit. So it's not normally this kind of crowded in that corner. And this day I went to visit a friend. I took some flowers, although as I recall, the flowers were actually a gift from someone else that I was just passing on. And I had a cup of tea and a chat with her. And then a couple of glass beads that I made, and a note that that was the first beads I'd made since July. So where are we now? Middle of October. And then this contraption is it looks quite similar to my B12 injection sketch, doesn't it? This is a bead reamer, and the pointy end is kind of rough. I mean, it's made out of metal, but it's got sort of a sandpapery kind of texture, and it's what you use for cleaning out the holes in the middle of the glass bead. When you make the beads, it has kind of like a coating that you put on the metal rod, which then after it comes off, kind of part of that residue stays in the hole. So this is just for cleaning out the holes. And I think the bead reamer was obviously new, because I've got a note here that I used it to clean the bead release, that's the coating, from 83 beads. So that was obviously all the beads that I'd made up until that point. I think I've got a picture of all the beads. I'll insert that if I can find it. Another one of my famously lazy days. Apparently lots of cups of tea, watching catch-up TV, sitting with my cat and wearing my slippers. And these two lovely boys belong to a friend of mine who was on holiday. This was obviously the month for looking after other people's pets. This isn't copied from a photo that I took. This was a photo that she already had. But I just thought it was such a cute picture that I couldn't resist copying it. I was obviously having a little bit of a kitchen revival month as well, because I made these pastries with chicken, cheese and sweet chilli, but apparently I burnt my lip on the chilli sauce. And then the next day I was wallowing in self-pity. I don't know why. There's no significance to the date. It wasn't like the anniversary of when my husband died or anything like that, so I don't quite know what was going on there. I'm pretty sure it wasn't in response to burning my lip the day before. It seems to be something a little bit bigger than that, but I don't recall what was going on. And then we've got the beginning of the end here. Shopping day. And this day I shortened some curtains for another friend. And who knows what happened these days. Actually, I did at some point I had written lightly in pencil some of the things I'd done on the day with the intention that I would come back later and fill it in. But as the days went on, I was kind of less and less inclined to come back and fill it in. So I've just, I rubbed out the pencil. This one, I had a big group of friends at my house and we're having teas and coffees and cold drinks. One of my friends actually took pity on me and she dealt with taking everybody's orders of what everybody wanted. And then this day I made some little tassels out of like embroidery thread. I think I have still got some of these somewhere, but I've no idea where they are, otherwise I would show you. And this day I just went for a walk with my mum and dad, and there was obviously a lot of sheep. And then we had another blank day. This day I was at my mum and dad's and we had mini Battenbergs. Funnily enough, before sitting down to record this video, I just had a message from my mum to say that they've got Battenberg for when I go and visit tomorrow. Another blank day. And then at this point I was halfway through. So this is my 6-month point and I was feeling very proud of myself, even though, you know, obviously as you've seen in the last few days I have missed a few. The following day we've got my sewing scissors and I've got a note to say I scissor happy, made a new skirt and also cut my hair. And that is it for my 6 month. Oh, I should have mentioned this one was actually the 1st of November. So I guess technically it was 6 months and a day. And then we had 4 days where I'd already written the date in where I'd intended to do sketches, and I'd written in pencil, you know, some of the things that had happened that I could perhaps go back and sketch something, but I'd sort of lost interest by that point, to be honest. And then I've just made a note here that more or less did a sketch a day for 6 months, which is an achievement. I'll use it for special projects now. I sketched some glass beads that I made. Now this was in March 2020, so this was at the beginning of the first lockdown for COVID, and Tufnell Glass, which is a company in the UK where I buy my glass, they did a challenge where they had a theme every day for 2 weeks, and the idea was kind of similar to Inktober, but instead of sketching you're making beads on that particular theme. So where I can, I will show you the beads, but I don't have all of them anymore. On the first day, the theme was monochrome, and I made this very wobbly looking panda, which I've called Squiffy the panda, and I actually gave that as a gift to a friend who likes pandas, not because it was wobbly, but because it was a panda. And then this black and white bead with the swirls I actually made into a necklace to sell. Day 2, the theme was birds, and I've actually still got both of these. This first one, hopefully in focus, it's just a plain blue bead where I added some white clouds and what I hope look like birds flying. And then the other one, the little duck, is actually now attached to a pin which I use in my lace making. Now his eyes are a little bit dodgy, but if you only look at them one at a time, he's not too bad. If you look at him from the front and see both of his eyes at the same time, he's a little bit freaky. But considering how small he is, I was quite pleased with the detail that I managed to get on that one. And day 3, the theme was stringers. Now a stringer is just a very thin little rod of glass which you use for decorating, and I think this little twisty thing that I did, I think I've actually got that like with the scraps out in my garage to perhaps remelt at some point. I'm not 100% sure. These 2 beads, I've still got one, so I can show you that one. and I really like that part of it. It's sort of like quite zebra stripe looking, but then at this bit it sort of goes a little bit I don't quite know what happened there, but yeah, I'm quite pleased with that one. And again, I can't remember what happened with the other one, but these two, these are possibly some of my favourite beads. I just love this combination of the cream and the deep red, and this like swirl, it just reminds me of like an old-fashioned kind of circus or fairground sign. And then on day 4, our prompt was dot work, and I used the same 2 colours again. And this one I really like. I don't know if it shows up, but the dots are only kind of half melted in, so it's got a really bumpy kind of texture, whereas this one on the other hand is kind of, I did the base bead and then put a dot of the cream and then completely melted it in, then a dot of the red, completely melted it in, and then another dot of the cream and completely melted it in. So it's completely smooth. There's no texture where those dots are at all. So I really like those two as a pair. Day 5 was favourite food, and then this little cupcake I made with a huge cherry on top, I gave that to a friend. And then these 3 are supposed to be chocolates. You know when you get a selection box of chocolates, and maybe there's some which are white chocolate, some are milk chocolate, and some are dark chocolate. So that's the idea of these. That's the white one with supposedly streak of darker chocolate on top. This is the milk chocolate, which is a very dodgy colour. I don't think I'd want to be eating chocolates that colour, but it was the only kind of in-between brown that I had at the time. And then this one, which is obviously the dark chocolate with a white chocolate swirl on top. And then day 6, the theme was beach. Now this particular bead, I don't recall what happened to this one. I think I might have sold it, but it was kind of like an opaque white and a transparent blue with this swirl, that the idea was that it was like the sea and the sand with the waves. But I do still have these 2, which I can show you. And this one, I don't know if you can see, it's got sand inside it. So I made the kind of cream base bead, and then while it was hot, kind of roll it in the sand and then cover it with clear glass so that the sand is trapped inside. So this is very fine sand from Bournemouth. And then this other one, I mean, if I put them side by side, you can see the difference in the size of the grains. And this is obviously a much grittier sand from Polkeris. And these 3, which I've since sold, were made on day 7 with the theme of frit. And what frit is it's tiny little sort of shards of broken glass, really. And while your main bead is hot, you kind of roll it in the little tiny fragments of glass, similar to what I did with the sand. And then because it's glass, you can just melt it in, and then you can kind of manipulate it if you want, or just leave it as kind of almost like abstract dots. So yeah, so that's what that one is. Day 8, the theme was seasons, and initially I planned to do a set of 4 with 1 for each season, but my ideas were getting too complicated, so I decided to keep it simple, just go for spring. And I made these 3 beads with a big hole in the middle. It's like a 5 or 6 millimeter hole in the middle, so that they fit on like a Pandora type bracelet. And yeah, so I gave these as a gift to a friend. And day 9 was faces. These 3 kind of emoji type faces. I actually made into a key ring, which I've since sold. But I did this funny little face, which I do still have, and I just think it's really quite cute, if I do say so myself. It's got tiny little sort of inset eyes and just tiny little black dots, and then obviously little pink cheeks, and then I used like a little, I think it's actually like a woodworking tool to kind of press into the hot glass to do the little mouth. I don't know what I will ever do with that little face, but I just think it's cute. So that's the last actual bead I've got to show you, so I'll just quickly go through the other ones. So day 10, the theme was hearts. This one I gave as a gift, and this one has been sold. Day 11 was texture. Now this was my most successful one, I think. I used a razor blade to kind of cut into the glass and then sort of reheat it so that the cut is kind of sort of smooths out a little bit. This one I used what is called a pin frog, which, if you can imagine, it's like a bed of nails, but it's only this big. And then you kind of poke the nails into the glass, and it sort of almost looked like a golf ball with like lots of little dimples in. And then this one was just all horrible. Basically I just used bicarbonate of soda, and that something kind of reacts in the glass and it kind of went all pitted, but not in a nice way. And then day 12 was paw prints. Now, do you remember, it was in this video, these two cats of my friend that I drew. So it's sort of like the blue grey and the sort of ginger colour. Well, I did these two paw print beads for my friend who owns those cats. And the other thing which I did was not this day, but kind of on a separate occasion, I did some clear glass beads where I actually included some of her cat's fur in the glass. And first of all, let me tell you, burning cat fur is not for the faint-hearted, because the smell is horrific. And but what it does, as it's burning, it creates bubbles in the glass. So it's kind of like you're sort of almost encasing some of the cat's fur in the glass, but it's kind of in the form of the bubbles that are created. So yeah, so the paw prints and the sort of bubbly, smelly glass beads. I mean, obviously the beads don't smell, but the smell when you're making them is very strong. So I made those into like a key ring or like something to clip onto a bag as a gift for her. These two, this one was terrible. I think I probably even threw this one away. I mean, it doesn't look too bad in the sketch, but it was a really ugly bead. And this one, I've actually got a video on my channel where I showed making this, and I think that was the very first video that I've uploaded on my channel. So if you want to see this one being made, you can either kind of look at my videos and search by oldest, or if you go to the glass Lampwork playlist, you'll find a video of me making that one. And then day 14, which was the last day of this challenge, the theme was primary colours, and I did these 3 little Lego bricks. And obviously it's not Lego, it's made out of glass, but basically like 3 solid sort of bricks, and then I put extra bits of glass on top to represent the little bumps that are on the Lego bricks. So there you go, that is the end of that, and I've got all these all these empty pages which may or may not ever get filled. Like I say, maybe if I do other sort of drawing challenges in the year, maybe I might put them in here, or they might end up staying in my regular sort of newer sketchbook, I don't know. So now we've made it to the end of my 6 months of sketches. There's just a couple of things that I wanted to sort of say in conclusion, really. First of all, I noticed when I've been going through editing the videos that all my chat, and there's a lot of it, it's all been about what I did on the days, not about the sketches themselves. I think there may be a few where I've commented on, you know, whether I liked the sketch or not, but I've not talked about what materials I used, how long it took. I mean, I don't remember how long it took anyway, but I've not gone into specifics about the sketches themselves. And I think that's, you know, partly because the focus of it was as a visual diary. So it kind of makes sense that it's bringing back those memories. So that's obviously what I was talking about. But also, I don't really feel qualified to tell you what you should or shouldn't do with your sketching, you know, what works, what doesn't work. I think everybody has to kind of, obviously you can have some guidance, but you kind of need to find that yourself. And that sort of leads on to the biggest benefit that I found from doing this daily sketching was that I actually got comfortable with my own style. I think prior to doing this, I was always somebody who would put my own artwork down and I would look up to other people's artwork as something that, wow, I will never be that good. And actually doing this every day, not that it made me think I was better, but I just got comfortable with it, and that is my style, and that's okay, you know, and I don't have to compare myself with others. And I can look at other artists and either other friends that sketch, and I know that their artwork is better than mine. Like, I'm not saying that in a false modesty way. I mean, there's no doubt their artwork is better, but that knowledge doesn't have a negative impact on me. It's kind of like I can look at that and I can appreciate what they've done, but I can also look at what I've done and appreciate what I've done in my own style. So I think that for me was the biggest positive from this experience. I'll say on the negative side though, I know a lot of people tell you that you should sketch every day. And if you can do that, I think that's a good thing. But if sketching every day makes you feel pressured to sketch, don't do it. Because you have to do it because you enjoy it. You know, if you start pushing yourself to do it because you should, then you're going to lose the joy. And I think that was what happened towards the end of the 6 months. Like, I was running out of ideas. And because, you know, most weeks I do a lot of the same stuff, and I was like, well, how am I going to draw this? And, you know, I was running out of ideas, and there were gradually like more days when it was like, well, I'd do the sketch the following day, and then there was the pressure to catch up. And in the end, I just got to that point where I was like, no, I'm not going to go back and catch up. You know, enough is enough. I'm done. I've done 6 months. That's enough. So it is very much a balancing act of, you know, sketch as often as you can. It's really good for you, for your confidence, for your style, and for your enjoyment. But if you stop enjoying it, then just ease back a little bit. Don't pressure yourself to do that. And I should have had a look actually to see the dates on my next sketchbook after this, because I think there was quite a big gap between finishing this and then starting sketching again just for fun. So that's my positives and negatives of sketching every day. And I'm really glad I did it, and it was overall a very positive experience. But I just want to be realistic, and you know, it's not always going to be positive. Overall, I'm really glad I did this, and it would have been lovely if I'd managed to do it for a whole year, although you would have had 12 videos to watch. So you might be glad I only did 6. But yeah, it was a positive experience. but I just wanted to be honest about, you know, the good and the bad side of sketching every day. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And I hope you've enjoyed this series, and I'm probably going to do a few different kinds of videos next, but at some point I will come back and show you my next sketchbook after this as well. So I hope you'll stick around for the others, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.